Good evening and thank you for joining us. The leaders of the four main parties in Ontario gathered in North Bay today for the first debate of the election campaign to discuss issues affecting the North.
Among the many topics were affordability, highways, and the pandemic, leading to some fiery exchanges from the leaders. Mitchell Ringos has the details.
The debate was co-hosted by NOMA and Phenom with a focus on issues affecting residents in the Northeast and the Northwest. Affordability emerged as a key issue in the debate as each of the leaders were asked about the impact short-term rentals and floating accommodations are having in northern communities.
We have a plan to license those short-term rentals, no matter where they are in Ontario, work with municipalities to make sure that they're accountable and that there are consequences to the things that happen in community.
We have to bring in a registry and regulate short-term vacation rentals to ensure that we have enough housing supply for people who live in the North.
Ontario Liberals would want to look for creative ways to make sure that the unique character of your communities is being preserved, while at the same time you're able to access the kind of shelter, the kind of homes that you should be able to have access to.
I think you can't compare North Bay to Thunder Bay, up to Kenora. Everyone has their own jurisdiction and everything's different. So I'd consult with the municipalities.
One of the most tense moments from the debate came from a question about the state of roads and snow clearing in the north. The answer swayed to the leaders' transportation agendas, including what they did in the past, with each of the leaders going on the offensive.
Doug Ford wants to spend $10 billion of your money as northern residents, my money, Ontario's money, to build a highway 60 kilometers on the edge of Toronto.
You'd be out in the middle protesting with protest signs on the highway with all your protesters because you're anti-development, you're anti-infrastructure. I'm about getting it done. I'm about building this province.
You're about your buddies, Doug.
That's exactly what we're going to do.
I've talked to so many Northerners who say that the long-awaited medical appointment that they finally had, because they can't get service here in the North, they couldn't go. They had to cancel because the highway was closed because his government refused to maintain the highways.
We need to finish the job on four-laning Highway 69 and have a four-lane highway between Thunder Bay and Nipigon on 11 and 17.
Mitchell Ringos, TBT News.
That was the first of two leaders' debates during the campaign. As Scott Lightfoot reports, it comes at a time when survey numbers show a shift in public support among the opposition parties.
This is going to be a key debate because it's going to set the tone for the next debate, which will happen next week, which, if there's any kind of knockout punch at that, could really set the tone for the close of the horse race.
Heading into the second week of campaigning, and new survey results are giving a clearer picture on where the parties and leaders stand with voters. A Nanos survey exclusive to CTV News and CP24 finds the PC party has 35.4% support, followed by the Liberals at 30.4%. The NDP is in third with 23.7%, and the Greens have 4.2%.
You know, right now, I think the numbers really speak to a conservative or progressive conservative minority, because back in the previous election, they had 41% and managed to snatch and win a majority mandate. But, you know, for the New Democrats, they got to be disappointed at those numbers. You know, they're at around 24% on the ballot, and in the last provincial election, they're at 34%. So they're still down a full 10 points.
When it comes to preferred premier, PC leader Doug Ford is the leading choice with 29%, followed by Liberal leader Stephen Del Duca at 24.1%. NDP leader Andrea Horwath is at 20.3%, and the Green Party leader Mike Schreiner sits at 4%. 9% of respondents said at this point they're unsure.
If you remember last week, Del Duca was at 17%. Now he's at 24%, so he's up a full 7 percentage points. But more importantly, psychologically, he's numerically surpassed Andrea Horwath for the first time, who now is in third place with only 20% on the preferred premier front. You know, elections many times are about leadership. And what this speaks to is that, at least in the first week of the campaign for Del Duca, no major mistakes, no major gaffes. And as a result, it looks like he's been able to define himself a little more, and in a positive sense.
The Nanos research surveyed 500 Ontarians contacted randomly by cell phone and landline between May 7th and 8th. The results have a margin of error of plus or minus 4.4 percentage points, 19 times out of 20.
That was CTV's Scott Lightfoot. Well, tonight we continue to profile the candidates running in Thunder Bay Atikokan. Judith Monteith-Farrell is trying to secure a second term at Queen's Park after winning the riding for the NDP in 2018. Jonathan Wilson has more.
Judith Monteith-Farrell was elected MPP of Thunder Bay Atikokan 4 years ago, beating out longtime Liberal Bill Morrow by just 81 votes. She's hoping to once again be a voice for the region at Queen's Park. Monteith-Farrell says her experience in the legislature is a valuable tool to help influence change and to get things done in the north.
The experience is valuable. What is important too to remember though is your morals and your values. That's what you're bringing to Queen's Park. And so someone who doesn't have experience brings that heart. But when you have experience, then you have far better chance of sort of influencing change.
Monteith-Farrell says there's still a lot more work that she has to finish in this riding, with some of the issues she wants to focus on being healthcare accessibility and affordable living.
They're suffering needlessly, and we need to improve that. We need to ensure that people can raise their families and have the ability to really pay for the things that they need to pay for and access to the things they need, like housing, like electricity, regulating the cost of gasoline.
Monteith-Farrell says her track record and diligence make her the best choice to represent Thunder Bay Atikokan, and she says the NDP is the party that has the people that understand the North and will bring their issues forward.
We need a government that where people matter, not where a small select group of elite people matter. And in Northern Ontario, we need a voice that's going to know and understand our issues and bring them forward.
Jonathan Wilson, TBT News.
A Thunder Bay man who testified in the murder trial of David Huey and Musab Saboon has been sentenced to another 2 years behind bars for his role in the kidnapping and death of Lee Kyoto in 2019. 30-year-old Marshall Hardy Fox was the driver of the car on the night Saboon and Huey tracked down Kyoto at a local bowling alley and brought him to Mission Island, where he was shot and killed. Police originally charged all 3 men with kidnapping and first-degree murder, but the murder charge against Hardy Fox was dropped last year and replaced with a charge of accessory after the fact. He then served as the Crown's key witness in the murder trial against Huey and Saboon, who were both found guilty. Today, the judge sentenced Hardy Fox to a total of 3 years and 8 months in prison for the kidnapping and accessory charges. But with credit for time served, he'll be released in 23 months.
The location of a new 6-court tennis bubble at Chapels Park has been approved by City Council. Last night's meeting saw a lengthy debate about where exactly it should be placed in the park, and in the end, Council overruled the staff recommendation. Vasilios Bellows reports.
City Council voted to proceed with the first option, meaning the new tennis bubble will be built northwest of the current outdoor courts at Chapels Park. City staff had opposed that site, bringing a report to the meeting recommending the second option, located south of the existing courts. General Manager of Community Services Kelly Robertson said the first option would put the bubble too close to the planned multi-turf facility at Chapels Park, which still needs government funding to proceed.
The crowding of structures in that area of Chapels Park, so overcrowding of structures in a park was another concern. But perhaps from an aesthetic point of view, the interference of the dome with the view of Mount McKay, which somebody may argue is aesthetic.
The Community Tennis Center has raised close to $3.7 million to finance the dome. Option 1 was their preferred site for the facility, but they had agreed that Option 2 was manageable, though Vice President Pasi Pinta said there would still be some issues.
The disadvantage that it would have is further delays, because obviously it's a significant work that needs to be done in the reconfiguration of Chapels Drive, and then as a taxpayer.
If Option 2 was approved, it would have meant an extra $500,000 cost to the city to realign Chapels Park Drive for the bubble. Originally, administration reported the extra costs would exceed $1 million, but that was cut in half after review, leading to concerns for Councillor Mark Bentz.
I'm not sure I trust the numbers. They're changing too much. And it's always coming out that we can't put it where Option 1 is. And administration does not want it there.
Construction on the new tennis bubble here at Chapels Park will likely begin in the spring of 2023. And once completed, will provide the tennis community with their first indoor facility since the Confederation College bubble closed in 2018. Vasilios Bellows, TBT News.
There's no change to the number of COVID-19 cases at the Regional Health Sciences Centre today. There are still 39 COVID patients in hospital, with 4 in the ICU. The overall occupancy rate at the regional has dipped to 97%, while the occupancy rate in the intensive care is now 86%. Roughly 2,000 vaccines were administered across the Thunder Bay district last week. According to the Ministry of Health, 86% of people 5 and up have now received at least 2 doses. 58% of those 12 and up have gotten at least 3 shots, and 23% of people 60 and older have had 4 doses of the vaccine. And the health unit has declared 2 more COVID-19 outbreaks today. One is a facility-wide outbreak at the Chartwell Glacier Ridge Retirement Home. The other is at St. Joseph's Hospital in 2 South.
The leadership of Anishinaabe Nation has come together this week for the Chiefs Spring Assembly. Representatives from many of the 49 Nan communities are here in Thunder Bay, although some are still participating virtually for Nan's first in-person gathering since the onset of the pandemic. Lee Noonan has more.
Grand Chief Derek Fox welcomed representatives from Nan's 49 member nations, some joining virtually, as well as special guests including AFN National Chief Roseanne Archibald and Regional Chief Glenn Hare, and infectious disease specialist Dr. Isaac Bogosh, who is being thanked for his service to Nan throughout the pandemic. Indeed, with testing and masking procedures in place, Fox says it's great to see people again, but that COVID is still a major concern.
We don't want to be the cause of someone causing an outbreak in one of our communities, and safety is our #1 priority. But other than saying that, you know, it's great to see the people here. It's great to have that face-to-face. I think we're very, very tired of the Zoom meetings, the virtual meetings, doing meetings in our PJs. We're very happy to be here.
Dr. Bogosh echoes Fox's statement that the pandemic is not over, saying the virus will continue to come with new variants and new waves. He praises Nan leaders for their handling of the pandemic, particularly for strong communication, creating trust, and getting people vaccinated.
If we take a step back and look at how local Indigenous leadership served their communities, I mean, from the outside looking in, it was just astounding. There was tremendous leadership from Nan and from chiefs and community leaders all over the province, and that resulted in so many lives being saved.
COVID is far from the only topic on the agenda, with child welfare, residential schools, and policing also featuring in this morning's speeches. Fox says the goal of the Assembly is to provide transparency, updating chiefs on Nan's work and getting their direction on several files. For him, climate change is top of mind, with the evacuation of Saskatchewan and the threat posed by flooding and forest fires.
How do the Nan chiefs, how does Anishinaabe Nation, with this vast land and territory, contribute to that fight, to awareness of climate change and ensuring that there's a future for our children?
Meetings will continue here for 2 more days, with sessions on housing, infrastructure, water, social services, emergency preparedness, policing, and many more. Lee Noonan, TBT News.
Motorists in the western part of the region continue to deal with flooded highways, which have led to numerous closures. Highway 17 to Kenora remains open, but drivers have to cross through rising waters over the highway. This was the scene today on the Trans-Canada, about halfway between Vermilion Bay and Dryden. The flood water is 6 to 8 inches deep, and the MTO has traffic control in place to ensure vehicles are crossing safely. The ministry says the water is slowly rising, and any closure will depend on future water levels. Meanwhile, the frustration continues for Red Lake residents who still can't get in or out of their community. Highway 105 was closed Saturday due to a major washout at Caribou Creek. That washout was repaired yesterday with a new 5-foot culvert, but another section of Highway 105 at Buller Creek is now under 2 feet of water. A sandbag station has been set up in Dryden to help residents in that area try to hold back the floodwater on their properties.
For the second time this month, the Skilled Trades Union has begun to walk the picket line. Last week it was the operating engineers. Now the Carpenters Union has launched a province-wide strike. The strike action began yesterday. Local members were back picketing today outside the local Construction Association office on May Street. Thunder Bay Union Coordinator Evan Reed says this is the first time in 34 years that the Carpenters Union has gone on strike, adding they're fighting for better wages to keep up with inflation. Reed believes the members deserve better after everything they've dealt with during the pandemic.
You know, many workers going to work and, you know, basically supporting industry, and now's the time. The members have, you know, spoken overwhelmingly of 76% rejecting the last offer the contractors made, and here we are today. So like I said, again, just hopeful we're going to get back to talking soon and everybody can get back to work.
The union has nearly 700 members across the Northwest, and about 300 of them are impacted by this strike. Reed says he's optimistic, though, that the two sides will get back to the bargaining table soon.
Gas prices in Thunder Bay have crossed a dreaded threshold. Some stations have now surpassed the $2 per litre mark. 3 of the local Esso stations were the first gas bars in the city to bump their prices up over $2. They're now sitting at $203.9. Many other stations have come close, holding at $1.99.9. And on the Fort William First Nation, the prices range from $1.68 to $1.77. According to the website OntarioGasPrices.com, the cost of gasoline has jumped 31 cents over the last month, with the average price in the province now sitting at $1.96.6.
Okay, so